Hi. When I say negative is not always bad, what I mean is that yes, it is not always bad, which is contrary to the popular belief that when you talk about something negative, it has to be detrimental. All those who do not know the fact that negative ions is in fact more beneficial for human body than the positive ions. In fact, positive ions are quite detrimental, as I would explain later. And why am I saying humans? Why am I using the word humans? That's because the other living organisms are still in their natural habitat. It's we who have digressed. It's we who have changed our path. It's we that do not live in our natural surroundings. And excessive use of electrical appliances leads to radiation. Radiation basically makes the air in the air around us positively charged in form of carbon dioxide, because there's a lot of vibration, there's a lot of collision in the air, which changes its charge. And so is the case when the pollution that is emitted by factories, vehicles, it pretty much does the same thing. It makes the air positively charged, and this air is of course the one that is positively charged is carbon dioxide. So when all these positive ions get into our system, there is an excess of positive ions, and our cells are basically they carry a relatively negative charge. I'll explain some very basic processes that we have already studied in our middle school. These processes are from biology, but then it can really make things clear. There is a process called diffusion and osmosis. Now, these are the two processes that cell uses in order to balance out its concentration level of gas and other solutes or liquids. So when the cell develops a high concentration of gases, or there's too much liquid, what it does, it there are holes in the membrane, in the cell membrane, through which it lets out that gas which is in excess, and brings in a gas which is lower in concentration. And so is the case when it comes to liquids. So that is how a balance is maintained. Now, not just this applies to gases and liquids, it also applies to ions. Ions are as I'm assuming that you all of you know about it. Ions are charge carrying atoms, charge carrying particles. So when there is too much negative charge inside a cell, this is a cell, okay, so what it does, it throws some negative charges outside or brings in positive charges, so that the environment inside the cell becomes neutral. What happens exactly when there are too many positive ions around? The cell would let these positive ions go inside. They let these positive ions in, and then there is a neutral environment for a while. But then when there is excessive positive charge inside, and outside as well there is positive charge, there are too many positive charges, so the system gets clogged. Our nervous tissue cell, which is neuron, is based on, that's how it carries forward the electric impulses from one place to another, because there are charges all through. So all these, let's just say the charges in our blood, they come down. And what happens when a battery has very little charge in it? It slows down and it finally stops functioning. That's pretty much the case in us with our system as well. So you may have heard about ECG or electrocardiogram, or you might have seen it in hospitals as well. Now this is usually a monitor that shows the charges in the heart. So when the charges get reduced, there is less and less contraction and relaxation of the heart, and finally it stops. And that's what cardiac arrest is all about, because the heart has stopped functioning. Why have I taken up this topic? That's because the pollution in the country has increased to such a level that the diseases that are caused by too many positive ions or too much pollution is too many positive ions / too much pollution is one of the same thing. You can take it as they are synonymous. So if you Google things, if you find out the data, the top 3 killer diseases in India are cardiac arrest, respiratory problems, and tuberculosis. They are all connected to that zone of heart and lungs. When there's too much absorption of positive ions, not just they keep us always in an off mood, because we're always in dearth of some movement, and when things get clogged, there is depression. So not just there is more depression, but the heart also stops functioning. So let's just say that pollution is just not one of those jazzy words that developed countries use. It's hitting India left, right, and center. We are losing people because of cardiac problems, respiratory problems, and tuberculosis. So, and not just that, there is an alarming rise in the patients of cancer as well, that's because when you have too many positive ions in the system, there is greater cell division. And those cell division, when there is excessive cell division, it forms tumor. So let's just say when our finance minister said that India can't spend its way out of recession, I could get it, because there are too many PSUs that have tanked a lot of investment that government made in those PSUs. So barring a few PSUs, that is public sector units, 15 or 20, rest of them around 100, give or take few numbers. So they're all performing very badly. So but this is one investment in curbing pollution, curbing the pollutant causing units. Now that can be the waste management industry. If you invest in this particular area, not just the money that you would pay later in the health sector, that would come down, but productivity of people would increase. The labor would be much healthier, much mentally stable to give their best. Because sometimes I feel the kind of money that governments inject in the health sector when there are emergencies is more or less, I'm using this word but I have to, is stupid. Why weren't there preventive measures? For example, when I think about in case of coronavirus, if there were timely measures taken to stop the contamination in the meat market, so much could have been saved. Now that's another thing that the Chinese government they worked very well to contain the situation, but still there was a lot of damage done. There's still a lot, and it just doesn't happen to one country. It happens off and on to it could happen to any one of us. So investments done in this field would really have long-term effects. It would stop it would stop your it would stop your bright people dying early, because more and more people in their 30s and 40s are losing their lives to these deadly diseases, which is so unnecessary considering that it can be stopped without much ado. So not just people would get employment if they are employed in the environment sector, or things would be a lot better. All right, that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you.